We look to our city attorney for our invocation and our pledge of allegiance, followed by a reading of our city clerk's decorum.
Let us bow our heads. Oh, Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for another day. Heavenly Father, we ask that you abide with us as we discuss the business of the city. We ask that you provide this commission with knowledge and wisdom in order to make decisions that are in the best interest for the citizens of Waycross. Heavenly Father, we want to ask that you forgive us for our sins and trespasses against you. And if you find anything like sin in our heart, cast it out. Help us to be neighbors to everyone and to approach everyone with kindness and respect and love in our hearts. We ask these blessings in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we will hear the reading of the decorum by our city clerk, reading sections 2-66.
Yes, as the mayor said, section 2-66 decorum. The mayor, commissioners, staff, and citizens in attendance shall conduct themselves in a professional and respectful manner, except when specifically authorized by the mayor. All remarks, comments, and questions shall be directed to the mayor and not to individual commissioners, staff, or citizens in attendance. A commissioner, staff, or citizen in attendance shall not speak at a meeting until the commissioner, staff, or citizen in attendance has been recognized by the mayor and granted permission to speak or ask a question. All comments or questions made by the commissioner, staff, or citizens in attendance shall address the motion that is being discussed or be pertinent to the agenda item before the commissioner. Any and all personal remarks, comments, or questions are inappropriate. The mayor shall enforce these rules of decorum. If a commissioner believes that a rule has been broken, said commissioner can raise a point of order. A second is not required. The mayor can rule on the question, or the mayor can allow the commissioners to debate the issue and decide the issue by a majority vote. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, we are going to ask that the commission look at your agenda, and we'll entertain a motion.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, resolution E1.
Resolution E1.
Yes, sir. If you don't mind with some concerns from District 1, we'd like to have a little more time on that if you don't mind, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I think the request was made, the auditorium is not fully ADA compliant for some of our older citizens, and I think they want to find a alternate location that's ADA compliant for those voters in District 1. District 1 does have the greatest amount of elderly citizens. That's what's been the hiccup through the years. So I think what I would do, I would try to find an alternate location. I would get with the school superintendent and see. I know last voting they had a small room. It was kind of confusing. We'll do a better job working with the voters commission about finding the proper location to make sure we identify it early enough so the citizens can find it and get to it when it's time to vote.
Okay. So what I'll do here is entertain the motion, and the motion has been made, or there should be a motion in just a moment, a motion and a second. And in the conversation with the discussion, then we can remove this one item from the agenda. Okay? If there's a motion with that amendment, that would be great. District 5, would you handle it for us? Would you call for a motion?
Yes. I move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. There's a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. There's a second for the motion to receive the agenda with the removal of resolution E1. We'll move into voting. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. The agenda is approved with the removal of E1 resolution. At this time, do we have any public remarks on official actions?
Yes, we've got one guest. Mr. Hargrove wants to speak about resolutions. Mr. Hargrove, you'll come forward and
Is there a
state.
specific resolution that he's responding to?
I don't have that information.
Okay, it would have to be something that's on the agenda.
I'd like to speak on the docket regarding resolutions, the addition, changing, or deletion of resolutions, which is on tonight's docket. And since you've just changed one, I'm assuming that's fine.
And I'll look to the attorney for any conversation regarding that.
So before I
Yes,
get
he can
started,
Speak on that.
I'm
Okay,
sorry?
very good. So he needs to give his name and address?
Named Michael Hargrove, 2012 Alice Street in Waycross.
And everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody
Somebody did it.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, let me be absolutely sure. May I ask Mr. Hargrove a question?
Yes, please.
Mr. Hargrove, are you speaking about an item that's already on the printed agenda?
I'm speaking about resolutions, which are on the printed agenda. But I need to give you a little background on that.
Which resolution are you speaking about?
I'm sorry?
Which resolution are you speaking about?
The changing of the district information, District 1,
Okay,
and the related information.
all right.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Hargrove, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A little background information first. Georgia Elections Code, Statute 21-2,
Speak on that.
-504, special primary upon death. Section B, whenever any person is elected to municipal office shall, after taking office, die, and I leave a piece out here, or any other reason for vacancy in that office, the governing authority shall thereupon call a special election to fill such vacancy.
Mr. Mayor, point of
What
order.
is the point of order?
He's not speaking on.
It's not at all on topic.
Well, you've got resolutions on the agenda items, correct? And I'm speaking about a resolution that wasn't presented tonight. And I want to know why.
Oh, no.
No,
That cannot be a discussion.
can't do that.
So, the point being,
Mr.,
Georgia Election Code calls out.
we can't do that. No, sir.
It's not maybe, it shall be
No,
held.
no, sir. No,
It
sir.
shall be held.
No, sir.
So you're stopping me, right?
Yes, sir. When I hit the gavel, that means you have no right to talk
Okay,
after
fine,
that
I'll
point.
take it
Thank you
up
very
on my
much.
Facebook page.
That is
Waycross
fine.
Lorraine
Very,
County
very
Unfiltered.
good. Very good. First Amendment rights are always useful. Thank you very much. Let's move forward. All right, so we have at this time, we're moving to the executive duties. And we have the employee of the month.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce the employee of the month, Mrs. Dawn Strickland. And before I do, Mr. Mayor, I didn't prepare any remarks because if I did, I would be very long-winded about Ms. Strickland. And I want to make sure I got up in here.
Very good.
Because she is working overtime right now by just being here.
Okay.
Just kidding, Ms. Strickland. It's not overtime. But so a few things about about Dawn. Dawn, since my arrival here, has been instrumental in my grasp and my learning of the city of Waycross. She is literally a walking computer on everything here, infrastructure-wise and funding-wise. I can put her on the spot right now and ask her what happened in 1976 on College Street, house 438. And I'm pretty sure you want to tell them. No, I'm pretty sure she could do it. That's how impressive she is, and she's actually been a lifesaver in many situations here with the city. When I came in, I was not aware of some of our funding challenges that we had, LMIG, and a few other things that she stays abreast on viciously to make sure that we get that money that we need to do our jobs here effectively. So, like I said, she's a great asset. I'm not sure what we're going to do without her when she does decide to retire. I haven't found a way to download her computer yet. That's new. I haven't found a way to download everything she has stored. Hopefully she'll write a book for us and leave it here on my desk so I can continue to look like I know everything. But I'm very proud of her, proud of the whole team here. And she's just a direct reflection of all the great employees in this workforce. They do so much for this city every day, and it's we can't never state or understate how much they bring to the city. So that said, I want to introduce to you the employee of the month, Ms. Dawn Strickland.
We are grateful for your outstanding performance. I know I depend on you a lot as well, and I'm really appreciative for all that you do, and especially when you get things together in the drop of a hat and make rooms look like they had never looked before. Just want to commend you and also give you this token of appreciation along with this gratuity to say thank you for all that you do, and I'm certain this is not enough for all that you do, but thank you so very much.
Appreciate it.
Ms. Dawn Strickland, everyone. I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. At this time, we look to our clerk to call for our CPAs.
I'd like to introduce the presentation. Our CPA, Trey Scott, is here with Malden and Jenkins, and he has a PowerPoint, and the commissioners have a paper copy of the same PowerPoint on their desk.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trey.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome.
Commission.
Good
Thank
evening.
Again, my name's Trey Scott. I was the partner with Malden and Jenkins who oversaw the audit of the city's 2024 financial statements, and pleased to be here with you all this evening to discuss the results of that audit. So just to kind of give you an idea of why I'm here, going to give you a quick introduction to Malden and Jenkins in case you're unfamiliar with who we are. Going to go over our auditor's report, your compliance reports, your financial statements, some required communications, a few recommendations and related matters, and then answer any questions that you all may have. Really quickly about Malden and Jenkins, we were founded over 100 years ago. We serve over 725 governmental entities throughout the Southeast. We do this across 14 offices in 6 states. And the office that serves you all is our Savannah, Georgia office. We're based in Georgia, so that is home to us. But enough about us. I think of particular importance to you all is our audit opinion on your financial statements. I think, as you all know, the financial statements that you have in front of you, that annual financial report, are the responsibility of the city's management. It's our responsibility as your auditor to express opinions on that financial information based on our audit. And we do that by following generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards. And I'm pleased to report to you all this evening that we were able to issue the city a clean, or what we call an unmodified opinion. And what that basically means is that your financial statements present fairly the financial position and the results of the city's operations in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And that's what you're looking for, is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can provide to you on those financial statements. Also included in your financial statements are a couple of compliance reports. The first is our Yellow Book report. It's a report on your controls and compliance. It doesn't give you an opinion on those, but if we have any findings, that's where we report those. We did have one finding this year, which is down from a number of findings over the course of the last few years, so certainly some improvements continue to be made in that arena, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a little bit. The other report is our single audit report, so anytime you spend more than $750,000 in federal grant monies, you're required to have a single audit of those major grant programs. And we did perform that single audit. We had no findings as it related to that, and we also issued you a clean opinion on compliance with those major programs. So that's certainly a very positive thing. Moving on from the reports, talk a little bit about the numbers themselves. As a local government, most local governments present two sets of financial statements. So within your financial report, you have two sets. One is the government-wide statements. It takes a look at all of your funds, rolls them up into one column, gives you that big picture view of the city as of June 30, 2024. And the other are your fund level financial statements. So your general fund, your public utilities funds, all your individual funds. And so what we're looking at on this slide here is kind of a snapshot over the course of the last 5 years of the balance sheet activity of all of your funds rolled up into kind of one number. And so what I see here is nothing really of concern. You've got a really healthy number as far as your assets are concerned, fairly low liabilities, and a good healthy looking net position. And again, that's looking at everything kind of big picture, government wide, right? You only see these numbers once a year in your audited financial statements. But what you probably see before I get ahead of myself, one of the more common questions I'm asked is how healthy are we as a city? And an audit's not designed to tell you how healthy you are, but there are certain metrics that you can look at to gauge that health. And one of those that I like to look at is the city reinvesting in itself. Can we look at the capital asset activity and see that? And that's kind of what we see in this graph. We could continue to see growth in that blue bar, which is your depreciable asset base. And accumulated depreciation is going to follow suit. But the closer that green bar gets to the height of that blue bar shows just how aged the assets are. And so that's a pretty healthy mix of old and new. So that gives me some comfort as it relates to your capital asset activity. So if we move on from your government-wide numbers to your fund level information, what you're more apt to see during the budget process and those kinds of things. We take a look at the general fund. Just to point out a couple of numbers here, your fund balance, $3.8 million as of fiscal year. And now that's not the cash you have available to spend. It's just the difference between your assets and your liabilities. And also that's a typo there. That unassigned should also be $3.8 million. You can't have more unassigned than your actual total fund balance. So my apologies there. But if we go all the way down to about that third bullet from the bottom, we did decrease our fund balance this year, about $1.6 million. So ultimately, your revenues exceeded your expenditures, causing that decrease. We were talking about health a little while ago. These bottom two bullet points are two indicators of health as well. How many months of expenditures do you have in fund balance? You all were around 3 months at June 30, 2024. And GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, they recommend you have somewhere between 3 and 6, so you're kind of right there on that cusp. We probably don't want to dip any lower, so that's one of those numbers I'd probably try to keep in mind, keep an eye on as we move forward. The other one that I like to look at is your liquidity ratio. So you could have a really healthy looking fund balance, but have problems meeting payroll or making payments on your invoices. And that really wasn't the case as of June 30, 2024 for you all. Your liquid assets could have paid your current liabilities. So your invoices that were due or your payroll that's coming due, you could have done that a little over 4 times. So that's a good liquid position for the city as far as the general fund is concerned. And here's kind of looking at things for the general fund graphically. Again, you kind of see good ratable increases in your revenue. That's the blue column. That decrease in fund balance that I mentioned, you can kind of see the gray and the gold bar or yellow bar. Decreasing from 23 to 24. Again, that's just one of those things certainly want to keep an eye on. That's not something that we want to see trending downwards. It's something we want to see trending pretty much flat or maybe increasing slightly. So again, just something to keep our eyes on. The other significant fund that I chose to include is the Public Utilities Fund. So it's a business type fund. And numbers look pretty good there. Your revenue, your operating revenue and expenses kind of fluctuating around the same amount over the course of the last 5 years. Did have a little bit of a dip in cash flows this year, but I expect that probably to bounce back in fiscal year 25. But again, no real concern as it relates to your public utilities fund. Moving on from the numbers, just some things that government auditing standards require me to communicate to you. Again, I mentioned the clean opinion earlier. That's what you're looking for. We did have the one finding, and we also had 3 recommendations for improvement or management letter comments. And I'll speak on those, I think, on the next slide. But moving on, your financial statement disclosure, so the footnotes in your financial statements, those and your accounting policies and your accounting estimates, all of those are the responsibility of management and are very integral parts of your financial statements. We also had no difficulties in dealing with management and the performance of our audit. No disagreements with management. We worked primarily with the finance director, Greg there, and his team. Very professional group of people, get us what we need when we need it, and that's certainly very refreshing from our standpoint as your auditor. I think it's also important to note too that we got the audit out on time this year. It's the first time since I've been involved we've met the state deadline, so that's certainly a very positive thing to be able to present to you all today as well. Additionally, we had no uncorrected misstatements, so all adjustments were posted to the accounts of the city. And then finally, we're independent of the city in accordance with all of the applicable standards of our profession. And so these recommendations for improvement that I've mentioned, none of these are new. These are all, I guess I've been presenting to you for the last few years. Like I did mention earlier, the one finding is this year-end close process, and I know that Greg's working on that, and we've been working with him. And our hope is to not be able, or to not have to present this finding to you next year. I think he's getting good staff folks to work with him in the finance department, kind of building up that group. And so our hope is that, yeah, we don't have that finding next year, but ultimately it's the result of just a number of adjustments being required to get things to where they need to be as of June 30, 2024. The other three, again, are recommendations for improvement. You won't see those in your financial statements, but these are three that again, I think Greg's been working on as well, and we've been working with him too. Interfund balances, these are just balances that are due between the funds that should be kind of due and payable within a year. And sometimes those things are kind of accumulating over the course of years, and we just want to take a look at those and kind of get those cleaned up and addressed. The second there, the internal service fund deficits. Internal service funds are designed to serve the city itself. And I think over time we haven't properly allocated the costs to the appropriate funds. It kind of goes in line with the interfund balances as well, and we just want to see those deficits get cleaned up in those funds as well. And then the final one is just a detail listing for your business type capital assets. There's something there, but I think it just needs to be tightened up and cleaned up. And that's what these recommendations for improvement mostly are just kind of let's get some of these things cleaned up and tightened up. And like I said, I know through my conversations with the finance department, they're certainly working on these in order to get these cleaned up going forward. I guess this is the next to last thing I wanted to mention. We do have a number of new standards that are going to be effective over the course of the next couple of years, and we'll certainly work with the finance department on the best course of action for implementation of those. And that concludes what I wanted to report to you all this evening. It's always been a pleasure to serve the city of Waycross, and we look forward to serving you all in the future. And if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And at this time, I'm going to open the floor for any questions that the commission may have, and I'll start with District 1. Did you have any questions of our presenter?
No, sir.
Okay. District 2?
No, sir.
Okay. District 3?
Yes, Mayor, I have a couple of questions.
Okay. Commissioner Felder?
Yes, my first question is, and I don't know if you can recall, because you all did our audit, I believe, the previous year. So how does our current audit findings differ from last year, based upon those recommendations that you?
I think we had 2 findings last year, and I would have to look back to see what that other one was, because I'm not certain what it was. But the financial statement closed, the one that is there and active for this year, we've had for several years. So I guess the easiest way to answer that is we have 1 less than we had last year. We only have the 1 finding this year.
And are there any concerns with how the administrators in the finance department control the key schemes of our financial process?
If we found anything that we needed to report to you all, like those 3 management letter comments, we would have reported it to you. So the answer, simple answer would be no, ma'am.
Thank you.
And District 5? Do you have any questions of Mr. Scott?
No, sir, then I'm glad that we have a clean opinion. That's basically all we want to look for. That's it. Thank you. Good job.
Finance department, not me.
Good job, Mr. Smith.
Sir?
Good job.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate your report.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
At this time, we look to our city manager for his report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a comment on the audit findings. I will have a few comments, Mr. Mayor. So one thing that they did recommend, and you're going to see this in this year's budget, we're going to increase the budget for training and traveling for the finance department a little bit to make sure that, of course, the finance director is going to go on, but I also want to push the other personnel in there too to go a little bit further because the finance requirements change so quickly throughout the year. It's almost impossible to catch up. So I did get that recommendation, so we will be increasing our budget. I'm not sure how much right now, but that will be a significant change once we go through the budget process. He did mention about getting the audit on time. I just want to recognize the finance department, definitely all the departments. We did approve the budget late, but the finance department, they dug deep, along with the rest of the directors, and got this audit done on time. Like as he just mentioned, that was our first time. Last year we met the date too. We didn't, I think it was a day over. This year we made it on time, so that's just a big accomplishment by the finance department. And just for clarification, for those that might be looking right now, we have had many financial issues over the years with the finance department for many years now. We'll give Greg's his team their kudos because they have really been cleaning this up. Now, once we get the new software packages, we'll clean that account that they mentioned about the utilities to make sure we're getting the exact revenue from that account. Right now, it is kind of questionable because our software is not up to date, and then we do have the meter issue. So those are some things that I did discuss with him and Greg. So I feel like this next year, definitely the next 2 years, we should be a total turnaround of the financial report, probably dating back 5 years ago when we constantly missed the audit. So I'm just happy and excited about that because there's been a lot of work put into that. And once again, just want to give kudos out to Mr. Smith and his finance department. I guess they can hear me right now, so they got a great team down there, Mr. Mayor.
And we commend them.
Yes.
And I have no significant report, Mr. Mayor. Like I said, I'm still revising. We're going to move away from that 30-day report, like I said, because y'all get a daily update. We're going to add a few more things to it. We're just trying to figure out how that looks. And once that's done, mainly the court appearances. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do that without embarrassing any citizens who might be on that court list. And that's all I have at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Let me ask another question regarding the course that's being offered here, Municipal Government 101. Could you just say something regarding
yes,
it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We had some cancellations, but the group that came, I think we had maybe 15 people, which is good for the first time. Last night was just the introduction and then the charter and a little bit of homework. It was all conversation based, so it wasn't like we reading slides. Y'all saw the slides. We only have 15 slides. Got a lot of good feedback. Last night they were charged to go review the charter and find one thing in the charter they would like to change, update, or delete, and then come back and explain it tonight. Once they do that, we will pair off and go into the budget process. And to those listening now, you're not going to come to this class and become an expert on city management. It's just impossible. But you will come and get a good overview of some of our significant challenges, some of your significant challenges as a commission. I did discuss with them about the grace of previous commissions trying to, run the city, and as he mentioned here, with some of the limited funds over the years, and it can be difficult, and why it's important that everybody understands how this really works. And I know you might want something if you don't have the ability to fund it, it's just still a want. But so we got some good feedback. We're going to put out a survey after the course is complete and get some more feedback, and then we're going to probably modify it then. I think the commission has a panel. You'll be on the panel, I think, Friday night. Mr. Mayor, your team yourself. We did reach out to some of the state reps to come. I think maybe 2 of them have committed to coming. That was a question asked as well about how do the state reps support the city. We had a long discussion on that. I did explain to them during the storms. They called every day. I know they called you every day.
Yes,
and you were working issues to get us supplies here. Not their only job, but this is one of the examples of you might not see them necessarily doing stuff, passing bills. But they do reach back here and try to help out the community, definitely in times of needs, like our previous storms. So all in all, it's been a great course. Like I said, we have been watching other courses for like a year now, and we tried to do something different and not just read slides. And like you said, when you come, they'll have a few generated questions already that I'll give you for your opening statements, but then there'll be some organic questions after the fact. And I apologize, Mr. Mayor, for any questions on that.
I'll open the commission, or open the floor for the commission to respond to that, and then I'll make my comments. District 1, did you have anything you want to say regarding municipal government 101?
No, sir.
Okay. District 2?
I think it's a great idea, and to have the community to be able to have knowledge or some knowledge of what we do. So I think it's an excellent idea. Thank you.
District 3?
No.
And District 5?
No, sir.
Okay. One of the concerns I had, and I don't know if we'll be getting into it, but one of those issues is parliamentary procedures. And I'm not sure if we're going to get into that, but a good bit of the code is going to be required. That is going to be necessary. And I know those of you who know me, you're going to find out that because most of the organizations that I've ever been a part of have parliamentary procedures, Robert's Rules of Order are oftentimes implied or imposed on the group, but it has to be accepted by the group itself. And then there are variations on how it can be implemented in different groups. So it all depends upon the group itself. Yeah, so it takes on its own personality in a sense, but I'll make some reference to that, and then I'm going to ask a question of our city attorney once I get to my part of the report, and that's going to be something in relationship to what just took place a few moments ago, for clarity for the persons who are listening by television.
Great point, Mr. Mayor. And just for reference, we did, so all of our slide presentations and general feedback is coming out of the GMA handbook. Once again, just a shell, a recommendation how you should do things. There are laws, state and federal laws, that we must abide to. So it's not that thing we're just creating out of thin air. I think that was the perception for some of our citizens, even last night. Some of them didn't know we had a charter. Like I say, discovery learning, they all know now. I'm looking forward to the next iteration, because like I said, we'll make this better each time. I'm thinking we can do it maybe 4 times a year. And it should get to the point where it can be taught by anybody. That's the goal, versus just the city manager and some of the other directors. So that's the goal down the road.
Very good, and thank you. So that leads to my report, and my report is going to talk a little bit about some of the events and activities that are going on in the city of Waycross. And most of the events that go on are on our website. So you have an opportunity to go to waycrossgeorgia.gov, and you can see the events that are taking place in the community. But of those, I want to highlight one of which happens to be the 2025 Spring Career Expo, and that will be held at our Waycross City Auditorium, or C.C. McCray City Auditorium. It will be sponsored by Waycross City and also WorkSource Georgia. This will have at least 40 plus vendors, and the date for this again is Thursday, April the 3rd, 2025. The time frame is from 10 a.m. in the morning to 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And again, this is C.C. McCray City Auditorium, 865 Pendleton Street, Waycross, Georgia. Coming up next week, we have Valentine's Day on the 14th, but just the day before it, we're presenting to the city, Love Your City, and this is going to be our Mayor's Ball. Our speaker for our Mayor's Ball this year will be the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of our Georgia Municipal Association, who happens to be Mr. Larry Hanson, and he will come speaking to us with the theme in mind. And the colors for that night will be red, black, and white. So those who are interested in coming, please feel free. There are some flyers in the hall, those who would like to get those. And then if you look on our website, you'll also see the entry fee and all the other intricate parts of it. And you can also scan this with the QR code and take care of it that way as well. With that being said, we also have District 3 is going to have a town hall meeting, and it's scheduled for Monday, February the 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. And it will be held at the Okefenokee Lions Club at 711 Columbus Street here in Waycross. And this will feature our District 3 Commissioner, Mrs. Katrina Felder, and our guest speaker will be Ethan Jackson Investment LLC and True North Way LLC. And this introduces and discusses that there are new apartments coming. With having said that, I wanted to go back to something that we had a conversation about. Generally, when we have meetings of this sort, whatever the agenda is, those items will have been discussed in the work session, and they will have been approved by at least 3 commissioners before it comes to our agenda. So even if an individual wants to bring something that night of, it will still have to be approved before we actually bring it to our commission. So I wanted to make sure that we understand that we enjoy community engagement. We want community engagement, but there are certain steps and processes that actually make sure that the move is smooth. And so we want to make sure that you understand that there's no one being told you can't talk. It's just saying that if there is something to be done and you've told us that you're going to be utilizing that moment to talk about an event that's on the agenda, you can only talk about what's on the agenda. You cannot create an agenda item for the commission. And the reason you cannot do that, it's part of our charter, which is one of those discussions that our city manager just made us aware of just a few moments ago. So I'm looking now to our city attorney, and I wanted him to kind of speak as to why I asked him the question. The question was, can that be done? Knowing that it cannot, but just wanted to make sure that you can hear it. And if the commission felt that something I'm doing is not correct, which of course I've noticed multiple times, when something is said after the meeting, you should say it during the meeting. You should always say point of order, Mr. Mayor, and then you state what the point of order is. You can't just say point of order and begin to talk. And then at the end of your conversation, I will determine, with debate sometimes, what is well-spoken or not well-spoken, okay? So those who do not know that, it can be a problem for you, and especially if you have not practiced this in some time, okay? And especially for this particular commission. You may have done it for another organization, but it does not pen well until you know how we actually do it. So I'm looking to the attorney to speak toward that end.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, every organization has to have order and decorum in terms of how you conduct your business. And the City of Waycross charter does provide for public remarks on official actions that the commission is expected to take, and those actions are listed on the agenda. And as the mayor indicated, you had a work session and you had certain items moved to the agenda. And the agenda is set. And you can't talk about everything from A to Z that's not on the agenda because that is not the appropriate way to handle your business. And it could be very time consuming to do that as well. The other issue is the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act requires an agency such as the City Commission, County Commission, Board of Education, Development Authority to publish your agenda, and that agenda should include all items that the agency will discuss for the benefit of the public, so that the public knows what those items are. And unless there is some exigent or emergency where you need to add an item to an agenda or even take an item off the agenda that has been set before the meeting is the agenda that you will discuss. You will not add to it and take away otherwise. And so, unfortunately, the gentleman who came before us tonight indicated that he was going to speak on one issue and he started speaking on another issue. And he even said, I want to speak on an issue that's not on the agenda. He said that. He wanted to speak on an issue that, a resolution that he thought should be on the agenda, but it wasn't. So, I mean, that was an indication that even he knew that that item was not up for discussion tonight. So, again, everything has to be done in order. Every organization has rules. The City of Waycross has rules, and we have to follow those rules.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mr. City Attorney. I just wanted to make sure that those who are watching and you're listening, you're aware of what's going on. Generally, I don't go behind someone and make any kind of statements unless I find that it's a teaching moment, and this is one of those moments that needs to be clarified before it moves into other spaces. But in that case, we know that it will do whatever it does, but I just want to make sure that I clarify those who want to hear and know. You'll know why the decision was made not to hear out the concern of the citizen in that regard, because it's not a public remark on official action. It was a community engagement statement that could have been given during a guest moment in a work session, but not necessarily in the official meeting. So at this time, we move to our consideration of our official calendar, and I look to our city's clerk for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no approval of minutes. There are no ordinance second readings. There are no privilege license renewals. There are privilege license. Mr. Mayor, should I go ahead and read those?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. First is Los Compadres Mexican Tangaria LLC with J. Gonzalez, 602 Pendleton Street, Waycross, Georgia, 31501. Beer and wine consumption on premises only. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So with that one being read, we've heard the consent calendar as read by our city's clerk. Commission, what is your pleasure?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion for approval by our Commissioner Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by our Commissioner Nelson. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. The official calendar is, or the consideration is approved. At this time, we move to our ordinances.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner.
he didn't read the second item for privilege license.
Okay, that is correct. Did not.
Okay.
And we've already approved, but is there a statement that needs to be made here for us to understand why that was not read?
That was the second item.
Yeah, that was instructions I was given. But I will read the second one.
Okay, so let me understand. You were instructed not to read number 2?
No, I was instructed to turn it back to you after reading number 1.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And the commission voted on the consent calendar, but they have not voted on the privilege license.
Which is part of the consent calendar.
That's part of the
Oh, I'm
consent
sorry.
calendar.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir. Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry. Okay, so I'll read number 2 now.
Yes, sir. And thank you for the catching that, Commissioner. So we're going to have to make an amendment, it appears, and we've already voted.
That is correct, but
Yes.
you can make an amendment to the consent calendar. at
Yes,
this
sir.
point.
Okay. So at this point, we'll allow for him to read, and then we'll get another motion of amendment.
Correct.
Okay?
The second one is Tipsy's Incorporated, S. Patel, 1269B, Ossie Davis Parkway, Waycross, Georgia, 31501. Beer, wine, and liquor, package sales only. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We have heard the consent calendar read by our city's clerk. Commission, what is your pleasure? And because you made the motion, you have
Move
to
for
make.
approval on the amendment.
Okay. There's an amendment made to our motion. Is there a second? The same person has to do the same thing, yes. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. The consent calendar is approved with the motion change. Okay? Now we go to our ordinances.
All right. Okay, all right, the ordinance, we have one ordinance, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the city of Waycross, Georgia, and the zoning map to rezone the property described herein located at Brunel Street, at Howe Street, and Haynes Avenue, parcel WA 1203035 from C2 Highway Commercial to R50 Residential, to set an effective date, to declare an emergency second reading, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Commission, you've heard the ordinance read by our city's clerk. What is your pleasure? Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval from our Commissioner Felder. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from our Commissioner Roberts. Any discussion on this ordinance?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Nelson.
Has anyone voiced any concerns or approval for this that we know of? Because I want to make sure that they're aware of what's going on in their community.
An ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, may I
Yes, you may.
inform the commission? There was a public
Public
hearing
hearing, yes.
on December the 17th to change to amend the zoning ordinance, but unfortunately, we had not had an opportunity to bring this before the commission. We had the Christmas holidays, and there were some other administrative matters that we were taking care of. And the person now has not been able to move forward with developing the property as a residential property. And so we put it back on the agenda so that it could be read twice tonight. And the acting clerk here really needed to read the explanation behind that, and I'm going to have him read that as well.
Very good.
Okay. Read this. Right. No.
Read the whole thing.
No, you've already read the
Right here.
caption, right.
Okay, thank you.
By adopting this ordinance, the City Commission will rezone Brunel Street at House Street and Haynes Avenue from C2 Highway Commercial to R50 Residential to allow for residential development. This follows a public hearing held on December 17, 2024, when the rezoning request was approved by the City Commission. The City Commission will also declare an emergency so the ordinance can be read twice at the same meeting and passed due to delays caused by the holidays and recent weather events. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
All the clarity that we needed was there. Thank you so very much. With that being said, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner, are you satisfied with it?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. We'll get ready to move in voting. I'm going to do a voice vote by district. District 1,
Yes, sir.
District 2,
Yes, sir.
District 3,
Yes.
and District 5.
Yes, sir.
This ordinance in the first reading is approved. At this time, we hear our second reading of the same ordinance and the notation.
Okay. And an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Waycross, Georgia, and the zoning map to rezone the property described herein located at Brunel Street, at Howe Street, and Haynes Avenue, parcel WA 1203035, from C2 Highway Commercial to R50 Residential, to set an effective date, to declare an emergency, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. By adopting this ordinance, the City Commission will rezone Brunel Street at Howe Street and Haynes Avenue from C2 Highway Commercial to R50 Residential to allow for residential development. This follows a public hearing held on December 17, 2024, when the rezoning request was approved by the City Commission. The City Commission will also declare an emergency so that the ordinance can be read twice at the same meeting and passed due to delays caused by the holidays and recent weather conditions. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Commissioner, we have heard the reading of the ordinance for its second reading. At this time, we entertain a motion to receive or deny. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we receive the second reading.
We have a motion for the second reading. As approved. And second? We have a second? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
From Commissioner Nelson. So let the record show that Commissioner Felder gave the motion and the second was given by Commissioner Nelson. Any questions or comments regarding this ordinance?
I have a comment, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say thank you to this developer who's bringing housing to our community, which is desperately needed. I also like to thank this developer for going through the proper process when it came to developing this property. Back to you, Mayor.
Okay. We have statement. So now we're getting ready to move into voting. We'll go back through the voice vote, starting with District 1,
Yes, sir.
District 2,
Yes, sir.
District 3,
Yes.
and District 5.
Yes, sir.
Motion carries. This ordinance is approved. At this time, we look to our city's clerk with our resolutions.
A resolution of the City of Waycross, Georgia, accepting and approving the annual financial and audit report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, and for other purposes. By adopting this resolution, the City Commission will approve the annual audit report for fiscal year 2024 completed by the accounting firm of Malton and Jenkins LLC of Savannah, Georgia, and direct that the city's finance department accept and implement any needed or useful recommendations made in said report for managing the city's financial affairs and transactions. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Commissioner, you've heard the resolution read regarding the city's accepting the financial audit from Malden and Jenkins. We just need a motion and a second. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Nelson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Bennett. Any discussion regarding this resolution? Hearing none, we move into voting. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. This resolution passes. Mr. Clerk?
A resolution of the City of Waycross, Georgia, to approve services agreement between the Waycross Area Shelter for Abused Persons Incorporated, doing business as Magnolia House, and the City of Waycross, Georgia, to assign a police officer to serve as a full-time sergeant investigator stationed at the Waycross Family Justice Center and for other purposes. By adopting this resolution, the City Commission will approve the services agreement with the Waycross Area Shelter for Abused Persons Incorporated, doing business as Magnolia House, to provide a full-time police officer serving as a sergeant to address domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, and/or stalking in conjunction with a Ware County Sheriff's Detective, towards fostering a streamlined method of support to victims and their families, to be paid for through grant funding obtained by the Magnolia House. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Commission, you've heard the resolution read by our city's clerk. At this time, what is your pleasure?
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval by our Commissioner Bennett. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by our Commissioner Roberts. Any discussion on this resolution?
Yes, Mayor, I have a question.
There's a question from Commissioner Felder.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Director Smith, you mentioned that a full-time sergeant investigator will be stationed at the Family Justice Center, and that, if I heard you correctly, that grant funding will pay for the salary of this individual.
Yes.
What is the length of that grant funding?
The length of time for the contract?
Yes. To pay for this full-time sergeant.
It's yearly. It's a yearly grant. It pays every year.
So
It's
the
the
grant
it's the
grant is
reimbursement.
renewed yearly?
Yeah, it's the reimbursement that Chief Cox talked about yesterday. That process. It's the reimbursement for that grant. So they have a grant and they reimbursed us for the officer over there. And it goes every year, year to year.
Year to year. But there have been so many changes with that have come up about federal grants, and more recently. That's why I asked the question.
Understood. Yeah. I think they turned the grants back on as of right now. So we should be good.
Until further notice.
Right. This way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on this resolution. We'll move into voting, and since we had some discussion, we'll move by voice vote, one district at a time. District 1.
Yes, sir.
District 2.
Yes, sir.
District 3.
Yes.
And District 5.
Yes, sir.
Motion carries. Resolution passes. At this time, we'll move from this point to our last call. And Mayor Pro Tem, if you don't mind, we'll let you go. You want to go last or you want to go first? I'll give you a choice.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out and be safe. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You go.
Oh, and congratulations to Dawn Strickland. Thank you for a job well done. And Mr. Gregg and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. At this time, we go to District 1.
Just like to say thank everyone for coming. Be safe and have a good night.
Okay. And thank you. In District 3.
I thank everyone for their time. I appreciate you for always coming out and to share your thoughts and your considerations for us as a commission and your concerns for us as a city. You're greatly appreciated. Back to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And District 5.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for coming out as well. I'd like to recognize Kevin Balsam, my fellow AMBETS member, second vice chair of that committee. Thank you.
Very good. And to each of you, thank you so very much. I want to commend our finance department, as well as Ms. Dawn, for her hard work and efforts, and just everyone that's present. Thank you, Commission, for being fully here today. And as we mourn the loss of our Commissioner Diane Hopkins, we also say thank you, family, Hopkins family, for lending us her while she was here. We also want to look to our city finance director and say thank you for serving tonight. I know it's a difficult task sometimes. We don't know how it feels to be in that chair until you're trying to read those names for privilege licenses, and that can be quite interesting. But with the aid and the assistance of our city attorney kind of helping you along, I know that made it easier than it could have been. To each of you who are here tonight, just thank you so very much for being present. We look forward to seeing you in the city. You are again reminded of the Mayor's Ball, Love Your City, and we want to see you here and enjoy yourselves to dance the night away. And with that being said, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion from our Commissioner Nelson, a second from our Commissioner Bennett. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.